Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I am Ryan Wormeli, joined today by Pat Fitzmaurice and Andrew Erickson. Fellas, we have arrived. It is NFL opening night tonight. This is the first of our weekly shows that we're going to be doing all year long. Thursdays is going to be must-start players and must-sit players. We're giving you two shows for the price of one here, and one of those shows will be live every Thursday morning, so be sure to be following us on Fantasy Pros Twitter, where you can get exclusive access to the show right off the bat to start off your Thursday mornings. Guys, we are jumping in. We're going to start today with the must-starts here for Week 1. And Erickson, we will start with you on your must-start running backs in Week 1.
All right, so number 1, Jamaal Williams. You know, it's looking like with Alvin Kamara not playing due to suspension, Kendre Miller's banged up with a hamstring injury. We're looking at Jamaal Williams seeing potentially an 80, 90, dare I say 100% snap share for the New Orleans Saints against the Tennessee Titans. Now, I know the Titans have a good run defense. They're very strong against the run last year, but when you have a running back playing every single down, every single snap, who has shown in past stints, especially with the Green Bay Packers, that he can be used in the receiving game. Before last year, the Lions kind of neutralized his receiving ability. He had caught 25 passes in each of his first 5 NFL seasons. So you have touchdown upside with Jamaal Williams. You have receiving upside. He's not the greatest running back, but the situation that he is in, I just think kind of makes him a super high floor play in Week 1, and where you drafted him, probably 8th, 9th, 10th round. If you're trying to fill one of these holes from one of your studs that you drafted that's not going to be available in Week 1, I think Jamaal Williams is that perfect plug-and-play guy at running back, whether it's running back 2 or your flex spot. So I like Jamaal Williams a lot. My next guy is Rachaad White for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that this game in the Dome in Minnesota could be a sneaky shootout. So with Rachaad White possessing skills in the passing game, I think that Baker Mayfield's going to be running for his life, and that means check down passes to Rachaad White. You know, the reason why Kareem Hunt was so good, maybe it's because of Baker Mayfield, because he's always targeting the running back position because he doesn't go through his reads. If Mike Evans, Chris Godwin are covered, I think Rachaad White could rack up a decent amount of receptions while the Buccaneers play catch-up against a high-powered Minnesota Vikings offense. And then lastly, it's Khalil Herbert for me. Again, another running back that you may not have drafted as a starter, but the Packers were atrocious against the run last year, 31st in DVOA, and I'm not really sure the additions they've made during the offseason have really made it, okay, this is now a tough run defense to go against. I think that remains to be seen, so I'm just going to go with, okay, Khalil Herbert, he is the starting running back for the Chicago Bears. Every time he gets 13 or more touches, he puts up RB1 fantasy numbers. So for me, he's actually faced this Joe Barry defense before. It was back in 2021. 97 rushing yards on 19 carries, so I think that he can take advantage of this Green Bay Packers run defense. So Khalil Herbert, Jamaal Williams, and Rachaad White are my 3 running back starts this week.
Yeah, I think they're all good picks. I really want to highlight Jamaal Williams. He's currently in the expert consensus rankings. This is for Week 1, not the draft rankings still. Jamaal Williams is RB25. This is in half PPR. I think that's way too low. I think given what we would expect from the volume out of him in this backfield this week, like you highlighted, maybe even a 100% snap share, I don't know that there's 15 running backs that I would have ahead of him for this week specifically. That will obviously change as the season goes on. But right now, given what that backfield looks like, I think he's like fairly likely to get a touchdown. I think he's going to get work in the passing game. Why is he so low that he's not even an RB2 in the rankings this week, Erickson?
I don't know. And I was in a guillotine league last night, and I drafted Jamaal Williams as my RB2 for this exact matchup because I'm like, I cannot get cut this week. Who's going to save me when I punt it off running back? Jamaal Williams. So
it is a tough matchup against the Titans. Like, they're not like an easy run defense, but yeah, I don't get it. Volume is king, and he's going to get all the volume. Quickly, Fitz, who's your favorite out of Williams, Rachaad White, or Khalil Herbert?
Rachaad White. Really like him. I mean, we know he's going to be heavily involved in the passing game, and I think there's rushing upside too.
We're going to run through some Who Should I Starts using the Who Should I Start tool, which is free to use at fantasypros.com/start. It's a player comparison tool, and every time we discuss sort of these percentages between a couple of different players, we'll be referencing that tool. Again, you can find that at fantasypros.com/start. So very quickly here, Erickson, I'll give you one for each of these players. Jamaal Williams or Isaiah Pacheco, who are you starting?
I'm going to go with Jamaal Williams.
Jamaal Williams only getting 36% of that vote, actually. Rachaad White or James Conner?
I'm going to go with Rachaad White.
He's getting 77%, so the experts agree with you there. And then Khalil Herbert or James Cook in Week 1?
Khalil Herbert for me.
Khalil Herbert only getting 35% of the vote there. Fitz, give me your 3 must-start running backs in week 1.
Well, so many things in the NFL change season to season, Ryan, except for the ineptitude of the Houston Texans run defense. That is a constant. Every year without fail, the Texans run defense is a complete sieve. Last year, Houston gave up a league-high 141.8 rushing yards per game to running backs, 5.2 yards per carry to running backs, and a league-high 22 rushing touchdowns to running backs. The Ravens are big home favorites in this one. It's going to be a run-friendly game script for Dobbins, so you don't have to think too hard about putting him in your starting lineup. Raheem Mostert for the Dolphins. I mean, we've got Jeff Wilson on IR. Rookie Devon Achane is coming off a shoulder injury. Mostert knows Mike McDaniel's system. They worked together in Miami last year, and before that in San Francisco when McDaniel was the running game coordinator. And the Chargers gave up the second most rushing yards to running backs last season. That game's going to be a shootout. It's got a Vegas total of 51 points, so we're going to see some touchdowns. Hopefully Mostert gets at least one. And Brian Robinson, another just real good spot. Should be a run-friendly game script for the Commanders as 7-point home favorites against the lowly Cardinals. Arizona gave up the third most fantasy points to running backs last year. I mean, we know the Cardinals are going to be lousy. I mean, are they even trying to win? No, they're not tanking. Wink, wink. All right.
Yeah, I've been shouting from the rooftops all offseason, of course, about J.K. Dobbins, so I don't need to rehash that here. I will just say it's going to take something fluky like getting stuffed on 4th down or him going down at the 1 for him to not score a touchdown in this game. Like, this is the type of game that they're just going to run all over the Texans, and Dobbins is going to be a huge beneficiary of that. Raheem Mostert is somebody that didn't really get a ton of shine, throughout draft season. Obviously, it was late in draft season that Jeff Wilson went down. They have the rookie, day 2 pick in Devon Achane. But Mostert, when healthy, great fit in the offense. Like you said, it's a really high-scoring game. I think he might be a little undervalued here, too. He's actually one spot behind Jamaal Williams. He's RB26 in half PPR. Is that too low, Fitz?
It is too low. I mean, yes, Mostert is old and gets hurt a lot. So those are issues when you're drafting him. But in season 1, when he hasn't played any games yet and he's completely healthy, there are no issues. Like he's a much better. I have him much higher in my week 1 rankings than I did in my draft rankings.
Erickson, I assume you have Dobbins the highest of these 3, but out of Mostert or Robinson, which of Fitz's must-start running backs do you like better?
I think it's Mostert for me. Again, with these injury-prone players that we were down on in draft season, this is when you want to play them. Because you're not going to have this opportunity later in the year when they're not healthy. So if you drafted them with the discount injury in mind, you got to play them while they're healthy. That's the thesis of the play of taking these guys at the discount. So if you don't take advantage of it now, you're going to be... You wasted the pick, essentially.
Some quick who should I starts here, Fitz. J.K. Dobbins or Jahmyr Gibbs?
I have to go Gibbs.
It's very close. It's actually one of the closest ones we have the whole show. Gibbs 52%, Dobbins 48%, according to the experts. So that's kind of a coin flip there. Raheem Mostert or Javonte Williams?
Oh, Mostert. We just don't know what Javonte's workload is going to be. They say it's going to be substantial, but who knows what they're really planning.
Mostert's getting about 2/3 of the votes there. And then lastly, Brian Robinson or Raheem Mostert?
Oh, Mostert.
Putting the two of them together, you like Mostert better as well, just like Erickson. For all you fantasy players looking for something new, Fantasy Sports Evo offers a unique twist to daily fantasy sports. They offer a variety of contests where you select teams, not players, to build your fantasy lineup and compete for cash prizes. No need to worry about a player injury ruining your lineup. No sharks. Evo's single and limited entry contests help ensure fair play. No salary caps. Select any teams you like. Super easy, super fun, and for all sports fans. Teams are selected for specific scoring categories, and points accrue from individual player statistics for that category. Just choose your contest, pick your teams, and watch as your lineup climbs the leaderboard with our live scoring. Join Fantasy Sports Evo today and claim your 100% deposit match. Terms apply. Visit fantasysportsevo.com or download the app, which is available in both stores, and start winning today. Guys, let's move to the wide receivers here. Erickson, who are your must-start guys?
All right, I'll start with Tyler Lockett for the Seattle Seahawks. Again, someone that's really been underrated throughout draft season, but I think that he's in a really good position this week in week 1. The Seahawks receiver has traditionally destroyed the Los Angeles Rams. Last year was no different. 2 of his best games came against the Rams. highlighted by season high 128 receiving yards on 9 catches back in week 13. JSN is coming back from his wrist injury. Pete Carroll expects him to play. I'll believe it when I see it, because Pete Carroll says a lot of things about injuries, and a lot of times it's not what actually happens. So if JSN is limited in any capacity, I think that's going to mean Lockett's going to eat. Lockett's a good pick, even if JSN is fully healthy. So I still think that Lockett is really set up well in a game where I love the Seahawks passing game overall. So Lockett for me. Zay Flowers is another of the receivers I think that you can potentially start in week 1. Look, he's a first-round rookie receiver with a clear path to targets. Mark Andrews has been kind of banged up a little bit. Odell Beckham Jr., Rashad Bateman. We have not seen them play healthy yet so far this season. We have not seen them in the preseason. So I don't think it's crazy to think that Zay Flowers could really hit the ground running in a really good matchup against the Houston Texans. We know that the Ravens are going to score points on Houston as 10-point home favorites. And just based on availability, I think Zay Flowers is the most available of the receivers in the Ravens passing corps. So don't be shying away from a rookie receiver you haven't seen yet, because I think it is a good spot for Zay Flowers. And then last but not least, my guy, Marvin Mims for the Denver Broncos. Future is now with Marvin Mims. I just cannot wait to see Marvin Mims line up across from Marcus Peters or Jacorian Bennett, third-round rookie pick for the Las Vegas Raiders, who's going to be starting on the outside for their defense. Their secondary can be beat. Russell Wilson was horrible last year. 2 of his best games came against the Raiders, despite him being so atrocious at times last year. So I don't expect Jerry Jeudy necessarily to suit up for this matchup, or at least be at 100% due to his hamstring injury. So that should open up opportunities for Marvin Mims to produce. They traded up for him. I don't think they're going to shy away from getting him the ball early and often. I think Sutton is probably the favorite to lead the team in targets in week 1. So I think that he is a strong play as well. But I think if you really want some splash upside in your flex spot, I think Marvin Mims is the guy.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that you picked a couple of rookies here, because rookie receivers are somebody that I think are very smart investments on draft day, but usually I think of them as sort of the Justin Jefferson mold, where the first couple of weeks he didn't do much and then kind of, got used to the game, adjusted to the speed, whatever cliche you want to use, and was a monster through the rest of the season. Or Amon-Ra St. Brown, who crushes it at the end of the year and ends up being a league winner. So for guys like Zay Flowers and Marvin Mims, you clearly see the opportunity there given the other injuries in those teams' receiving core. But do you really think that these rookies, especially Mims, who's not even a day 1 rookie, can come in and actually be a must-start guy for your fantasy team right off the bat?
Yeah, because they're going to get instant opportunity. I think that's what you were really highlighting there, where in the case of Justin Jefferson, we were hesitant because we knew, week 1, he's not a starter. And as we'll talk about a little bit later, there are certain receivers that are rookies that are buried on their depth charts, where it's no, you can't start this guy because he's not going to be running enough snaps. He's not going to be running enough routes to actually put up worthwhile fantasy production. But for Marvin Mims, he's going to be out there on all the snaps. He's going to be out there creating plays in a favorable matchup. That should be something that you want to chase. Just because you haven't seen it yet doesn't mean that, he's not going to be able to do anything. He's going to be playing a lot. So that's why I like Mims. Again, I mentioned with Zay Flowers, I want pieces of this Ravens offense in my lineup in all capacities. So if he's the healthiest guy, why can't it be him eating up all the targets in the passing game from Lamar Jackson? So, hey, we don't have to go turn the clock back too far. Marquise Brown was pretty good in his rookie year in the first game. So I think this is a great opportunity to get ahead of the curve with some of these rookie receivers and not miss a potential blow-up game in week 1.
That Marquise Brown week 1, 2019 was awesome. Just a spectacular joy to watch. Fitz, quickly, Lockett, Flowers, Mims. I'm sure you have Lockett first of those guys, but are you, on board with Erickson and all 3 of them?
I am. I love having Lockett and Flowers on my Scott Fishbowl team. And I actually have to bench Flowers. I'm playing 6 wide receivers, and he's the odd man out. So excited about that.
Strong team. Erickson, some quick, who should I start? It's Tyler Lockett or Deebo Samuel?
Can it come with the caveat that if George Kittle doesn't play, it's got to be Deebo? I'm still probably going to start Deebo Samuel in most cases, just because I think that he, again, why was he falling in drafts? Because he's injury prone. He's healthy right now in week 1, so I'm going to play him and take advantage of it.
You can have all of the caveats you want. How about Zay Flowers or Sky Moore, a couple of young, talented guys?
I'm going to go with Sky Moore in this situation. I think that just kind of following the targets, if there is no Travis Kelce on Thursday night, I expect Sky Moore, who's the starting slot receiver for the Chiefs. Look, man, we're not going to get many opportunities where you can have Patrick Mahomes leading receiver in a matchup against the Lions. Yeah, I would probably go with Sky Moore there.
So Deebo Samuel got 80% of the vote in that first one. Tyler Lockett, 20%. In this next one, it's a lot closer. Zay actually gets 52% of the vote. Sky Moore, 48%. So another coin flip there. And then lastly, Marvin Mims or Rachaad Bateman.
Oh, Marvin Mims for me, easy. Rachaad Bateman, you got to show me that you can finish a game first before I'm going to put you in my starting lineup.
Bateman got 70% of the vote, so you're definitely going against consensus there.
The consensus is going to be taking the L on that one.
I hope you're wrong there just for the Ravens' perspective alone. Fitz, give me your 3 must-start wide receivers.
Jahan Dotson is one. Once again, we're picking on the Cardinals. All season, we're going to be targeting the Cardinals for fantasy. They are really thin at cornerback. And Dotson is poised for a breakout season. 7 touchdowns in 12 games last season and 5 games as a top 20 fantasy receiver. Plus, Terry McLaurin is dealing with turf toe. So it seems like Dotson is going to be primed to get a lot of targets in that game. Michael Thomas, this goes back to what Erickson was talking about earlier with the guys who are injury prone and, who concern you in drafts. Well, if you get them, they're healthy now. And Thomas is healthy now. And he's got that good matchup that we talked about with the Titans. They are a pass funnel. Titans are really good against the run. They're really bad against the pass. And yes, like Michael Thomas, he's not going to be the 1,700-yard receiver. He was in 2019. Chris Olave is the sheriff in town now in New Orleans, but Thomas can still be a fantasy-friendly possession receiver. And Van Jefferson. I mean, I know the rookie Puka Nacua is getting a lot of buzz, but I think Stafford might want to lean more heavily on the veteran here without Cooper Kupp in the lineup. I think those two are going to be on the same page, and I trust Van Jefferson a little more than I do Nacua.
Yeah, Fitz, you're filling in for Debro, who's under the weather, so we appreciate you stepping up today. I'm sure he appreciates that you still got in a Puka Nacua comment in this episode, since he's about Puka's biggest fan. On Dotson, he's a guy that had a ton of helium this August that basically every analyst we talked to on this show all draft season said, go out and draft Jahan Dotson. He seems like, to me, the type of guy who could very quickly establish himself as a guy who was ranked about 10 spots too low in receiver rankings all August, and it's only going to take a week or two for us to kind of adjust in the weekly rankings. Do you see that playing out?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of saw flashes of why he was a first-round pick last year with his skill set. I mean, he pretty much does everything well. Like, he's fast and plays fast, good route runner, good after the catch, really good on contested catches. I mean, he is a baller.
Erickson, just quickly before I get into the who should I starts, Dotson, Michael Thomas, Van Jefferson, any disagreements here?
Nope. I capitulated on Michael Thomas on our previous show that we had done earlier in the week because I was like, I had him really low, and I was like, man, he is healthy right now, so he probably is worthy of a start if you took a stab at him in draft day.
All right, Fitz, Jahan Dotson or Brandon Ayuk this week?
Wow, that's really close. Ayuk.
It's not actually close, according to the experts. Jahan Dotson gets 80% of that vote. So people are buying in early. I was surprised by that disparity. How about Michael Thomas or Gabe Davis?
Michael Thomas. I don't want any part of that Gabe Davis-Jets matchup.
You are very against consensus again. Michael Thomas only gets 12% of the vote. Gabe Davis, 88%. And then lastly, Van Jefferson or Nico Collins?
Van Jefferson. Let's see if I'm once again on the wrong side of the tracks.
You actually couldn't be, because this is exactly 50-50 according to the experts, but you have chosen your side. You guys know how much I love going to see sports in person, and now that the NFL is finally back, I'm excited to check out Mile High Stadium right here in Denver, or maybe I'll catch the defending NBA champion Nuggets too. Whichever sport I choose, the best way to get tickets to any of these games is on Game Time, the official ticketing partner of FantasyPros Fantasy Football. For last-minute amazing deals on tickets to see your favorite football team this September, download Game Time. And as you've heard us say before, it's not just football. Game Time has tickets to baseball games, concerts, and comedy shows all across the country. Download the Game Time app and redeem code FantasyPros for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the Game Time app and enter code FantasyPros, all one word, for $20 off. No matter where you live, get out and have some fun this week. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Guys, we're going to kind of do the onesie positions, QB and tight end, and then also throw out a defense/special teams here, all in kind of one section. So, Erickson, who are your picks here? Must start quarterback, tight end, and defense.
I absolutely am in love with Geno Smith this week. I think that if you went late round quarterback and you have Geno, you are sitting very, very pretty. Average nearly 20 fantasy points per game over his last 20 starts with the Seattle Seahawks. They have a super high implied team total at 25.5 points. Name a player on the Rams defense not named Aaron Donald. Try. It's an exercise. It's really hard because you can't, because they've entirely overhauled this defense. So I think that Smith, with all his weapons now at his disposal, with Metcalf, with Lockett, JSN, Ken Walker, Zach Charbonnet out of the backfield, Geno Smith, one of these quarterbacks that's popping in projections. He's a QB7 in week 1 projections. So I think that ECR is lagging behind on Geno Smith. I have him as a top 8 quarterback this week. I think that he's a great start, and I'm definitely trying to put him in all my lineups if I can, if I went late round quarterback. At tight end, I like Gerald Everett. We're looking for, okay, if I can't find a tight end with a clear path to targets, what's the next best thing? Probably touchdown upside. Chargers, Dolphins, in the dome, potential shootout game. I like this spot for a Gerald Everett type of player. Now, is he going to see a boatload of targets with all the other receivers healthy? Not necessarily, but I expect Justin Herbert to throw 3 or even 4 touchdown passes. Gerald Everett was his guy in the red zone last season. So for me, I think that Gerald Everett is in a good spot. And I do think the Miami Dolphins, one of their weaknesses on their defensive side of the ball is at the linebacker position. So I think Everett can take advantage there, especially if he sees a larger role in Kellen Moore's offense that we saw work very favorable for a guy like Dalton Schultz over the last couple of years. And then for DST, it's got to be the Commanders. Like, if they're sitting out on your waivers anywhere, I mean, Joshua Dobbs getting the start. He played 2 games last year, went 0-2. They're 7-point home favorites. And the Commanders actually have a good defense. They have, per PFF, the 3rd best defensive line entering the year, and that's with Chase Young not even at 100% health. So I think that the Commanders DST could totally overwhelm this Cardinals offense and rack up a ton of points, touchdowns, sacks, turnovers. I think you're sitting very, very pretty back in the nation's capital in week 1.
Quick, who should I start here for you, Erickson? Geno Smith, a guy you love this week, or Deshaun Watson, a guy you've loved all offseason?
For week 1, it's Geno Smith for me.
Geno Smith, okay. And then just quickly on the Washington defense, obviously I'm pretty sure you could just fill this section every single week with whoever's facing the Cardinals. Do you actually like them as a defense that you might be a multi-week kind of starter for fantasy, owners here?
I do think so, because in week 2 they play the Denver Broncos. So if Russell Wilson comes out a little bit shaky in week 1 against a bad Raiders defense, then you may not need to drop the Commanders and find some other defense. So they have a really good defensive line. Their secondary was bad last year, but they've made some improvements. They drafted some guys, brought some free agents in. So I do think that the Commanders ranked pretty low in fantasy drafts overall outside of this week 1 matchup. I think that they can be a DST that emerges as someone that you do start every single week, especially if they do improve personnel-wise.
Fitz, give me your quarterback, tight end, and defense.
Tua is my quarterback, and we've talked about the big 8 at quarterback during draft season. I think it would have been the big 9 were it not for the concerns about Tua and his concussions. But again, healthy now, and he is playing in one of the most fun games on the week 1 slate, that Chargers-Dolphins potential shootout with its Vegas total of 51 points. And, of course, Tua gets to leverage the talents of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. At tight end, it is Tyler Higbee. And in my week 1 rankings and tiers article, which all of you out there in podcast land should read, I posed the question, how does Tyler Higbee not get a boatload of targets this week with Cooper Kupp out? And really, it's just a rhetorical question, because he is going to get a boatload of targets. I'm pretty convinced of that. Like, who else is Stafford going to go to? Yes, maybe Van Jefferson, maybe Puka Nacua. I think Tyler Higbee might be his main safety blanket in that game. And then the New Orleans Saints. I just want to give a shout out to the Saints as what might be the best lazy man's defense of all time in fantasy football. I mean, the Saints' schedule is ridiculous. Like, they do not have any daunting matchups. The slate of quarterbacks the Saints face this year is a veritable who's who of mediocre quarterbacking. And I mean, the great thing is, if you have the Saints, like, you literally do not need to replace them all season. Don't have to go on waivers every week, figure out who's got the matchups, who's looking good. Set it and forget it, baby.
I love a lazy man's defense, so I really appreciate that call, Fitz. I want to give you for who should I start quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa or Kirk Cousins?
Tua. Easy.
Tua. That's an easy one for you. All right, let's give a quick recap here. Must-start running backs for Erickson, Jamaal Williams, Rachaad White, Khalil Herbert. For Fitz, J.K. Dobbins, Raheem Mostert, Brian Robinson. At wide receiver, Erickson has Tyler Lockett, Zay Flowers, and Marvin Mims. Fitz has Jahan Dotson, Michael Thomas, Van Jefferson. Then at quarterback, Erickson's got Geno Smith. Fitz has got Tua. At tight end, Erickson has Gerald Everett. Fitz has Tyler Higbee. And at defense, Erickson has Washington Commanders. And Fitz has the New Orleans Saints. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the live show. Please be sure, if you didn't watch us live, to stick around and catch the must-sit players, or if you did watch us live, stick around and watch that as well, as we'll be coming right back with that later on this afternoon. Again, week one, we're here, first show in the books. It's going to be a really fun season talking to you guys. For Erickson and Fitz, I'm Ryan Wormeli, and we'll see you again later today.